Hello and welcome to Stranded Deep. My name is Agork, and today is going to be a video for people who are a little bit anxious about playing Stranded Deep. If you've tried the game and it freaks you out a little bit, either the sharks, the snakes, or the deep water, for example, these are things that can cause people to be a little bit anxious about playing the game. So what I'm going to show you guys today is some settings that you can change that will help you to alleviate these particular anxieties in the game. Let's just get into this, how to reduce anxiety in Stranded Deep. Okay, so when you want to start a new game, you click on play. Now here there are a couple of things that you can look at. The very first one obviously is the difficulty level. If you're a new player, just put it on normal. That's all you really need to know. Hard is for more advanced players, and then creative is for players who are kind of trying to set up something on an island, maybe for a YouTube video. You don't have to worry about anything going wrong because you won't get diarrhea, you won't get sunstroke, you won't get hungry, you don't get thirsty, you don't get injured by animals, you don't get poisoned. It's basically kind of like a God mode. And as a new player, you're not going to learn anything if you're on God mode. So creative, I would just leave that alone. Don't go there unless you're setting it up for some specific purpose that you need it for. All right, so we'll leave that at normal. Okay, so the next setting is the wildlife settings. And this is the one that is probably the most important setting for anyone that has anxieties about playing Stranded Deep. Of course, your first setting is normal. Wildlife acts the way it normally does in the game. They will attack you. They will defend themselves if you attack them. Poisonous fish, starfish, snakes, etc. will poison you. So if you find that with these settings that the game is still a little bit too intimidating for you, we can change the setting and select passive. With the passive setting, all of the animals and creatures and things are still there. They just will not harm you or poison you in any way. So knowing that should alleviate some anxiety. You're not going to get bitten, you're not going to get attacked, you're not going to get poisoned. You can swim right in front of a shark, it will not bite you. You can step on a snake, it will not bite you. You can stand in front of a giant boar, it will not attack you. So for this setting, the animals are still there, but you're perfectly safe. Okay, and if that's still not good enough, there is one more option, and that is to go to the removed setting. Now this doesn't remove everything, it just removes kind of the main antagonists in this game. And that includes all of the dangerous sharks, the giant boars, the giant crabs, and the land snakes, or night snakes as they're called in the game. However, it doesn't remove any of the sea creatures that can poison you, like lionfish, sea snakes, sea urchins, or the purple spiky starfish. Those will still be in the game. However, just like the passive setting, they will not poison you. It's also important to note that the passive setting and the remove setting will not affect the boss fights. Those will still be there, the bosses will still try to kill you, and there's nothing you can do about that other than to avoid them completely. If you really don't even want to deal with snakes, boars, sharks, select removed. If you just don't want them to attack you, then just select passive. That's kind of it in a nutshell. Now there are, of course, a few other settings that we can look at that could also help you out here, not only for anxiety, but also to make the game a little less annoying at times. Obviously here at the bottom, we have the option of either permadeath on or off, and I mean, that's a no-brainer. As a new player, you will want that to be off because you will die. I hate to tell you this, but you're gonna die at some point. There is a learning curve to this game. You have to learn what is poisonous, what is dangerous, all the different things that can harm you in this game. There are cures for them, you just have to learn what they are. With permadeath on, if you die, the game is over, you have to start a whole new world. With permadeath off, if you die, you'll just respawn back at your last save spot, which is usually at your shelter. Okay, so those are the main settings that you'll need to deal with in order to deal with anxiety in this game. Now, there are some other settings that we can look at as well, and these are not necessarily going to help you with anxiety, but they might make the game seem a little less annoying. If we go to the main menu under Options, on the first screen here, we have a few settings that we can adjust to make things a little easier on your gameplay. Under Gameplay, obviously the first thing for new players is going to be the tutorial. You either have it as on or off, and as a new player, you will obviously want that to be on. Once you've gone through the tutorial, you've played the game a little bit, and you no longer need the tutorial, even if you start a new world, you can go into the settings here and turn off the tutorial before you start your new game. Just a little tip there for you, as not everyone realizes that you can actually turn off the tutorial, but you can. A little bit further down, we have the camera view. You have first person and third person. For new players, I would recommend that you leave this on first person. It is the easiest to control, gives you the best perspective of the game. Third person is just a little bit harder to deal with, in my opinion. It's harder to control your character, to figure out where he's aiming and stuff like that. So I would suggest just leave that on first person. We also have a thing down here called Ocean Motion Sickness Effect. It's a bit of a mouthful. But basically, this is how much you will be bobbing around on the waves when you're sailing on the ocean, whether it's in your rubber life raft or whether it's on a raft that you've built yourself. The scale goes from 0 to 100. At 100, it's where you're going to be bobbing around quite a lot. And at 0, it's not going to completely eliminate the motion, but it will significantly reduce it. So if you are susceptible to motion sickness, car sickness, anything like that, I would highly recommend that you just move that slider all the way over to 0. Okay, so if we go over to the graphic settings, under field of view, you can see that the slider here goes from 60 to 90. Now, in my opinion, for new players, you want to be able to see as much as you possibly can, so I would move that all the way over to 90. It gives you a nice wide field of view. You can see things off to the side a little bit better. If you have it all the way down to 60, it's almost like you're zoomed in a little bit and you can't see what's happening off to the side too much, which can cause anxiety if you get attacked from the side by a boar or a shark. So yeah, to reduce that part of the anxiety effect, crank that up to 90. Make sure you have a good view of what's going on around you. Under the video settings, there's not really anything here that's going to make a huge difference. Usually you'll just set this up to however your computer can handle the game, setting it to the highest settings that you can play comfortably. Just experiment with it a little bit and see what you get there. One thing that will help you a little bit, again with the annoyance factor in the game, is in the environmental settings, grass. By default, grass is on. I would highly recommend that you change that to off. And the reason for that is because if you're on a small island, for example, your start island, you're in the middle of the island, you're crafting things, you drop something on the ground, and then you go to look for it again when you need it, and you can't find it. It's hiding in the grass. If you dropped a refined knife, for example, it can be so hard to find it again. So simply turning the grass off makes it way easier to find things that you drop on the higher ground there in the middle of the island. Under the audio settings, there's not a lot that we can do here in regards to anxiety or making the game easier for you, but you can adjust quite a few different settings here. You can increase or decrease various sounds if you find them to be too overpowering or too subtle. This includes not only the in-game music, a lot of it which is really good. Shark music, for example, is very important. If you want to know if there's a shark around, you can crank up the music a little bit to make sure that you hear that shark music. There are sounds like opening and closing of crates, which can be quite loud. Environmental sounds such as waves, the chopping of wood, and even your character's voice when he or she is commenting on things like saying, "Ooh, that's gross." These can all be adjusted in the in-game audio settings to make it exactly how you want it. And finally, we have the camera smoothing and sensitivity settings. Now again, this is more for comfort while you're playing. I find that if it's too sensitive and everything is jerking around a lot, that I can get a headache, or that it bothers me watching the screen intently like I do when I'm playing. So what I like to do is I like to turn the sensitivity down to about 40%. And the sensitivity setting will, of course, depend on your own computer mouse, how sensitive you have that set, and for personal preferences as to how sensitive you like your screen movement to be. One thing that can really help, though, is the smoothing. I find that if I put the smoothing at somewhere between 70 and 100%, that it just looks way smoother. Everything is much smoother on the eyes, nothing is jerking around, and it's just a lot more comfortable to view, in my opinion. That's something that you can adjust to your own preferences and go from there. And the final thing that I think you can adjust that might help you out is motion blur. I personally hate motion blur. I think it looks terrible. I don't want my vision to be blurry. So I always turn the motion blur off. But that again is a personal preference. You can leave it on if you like it. Turn it off if you don't. Okay, so that's about all I have for this video. Those are my recommended settings for players that have anxiety or who find the game to be a little bit annoying at times. Some of these settings will help you to alleviate those problems and hopefully enjoy the game a lot more. I hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a like or a comment down below. Subscribe to my channel. It does help me out, keeps me motivated and producing more content for Stranded Deep. If you're not familiar with my channel, do check it out. I have probably about 100 videos or so on Stranded Deep just on my channel. I have tutorials, playthrough series, challenge series where I do crazy things in Stranded Deep. I have custom island videos, modifying the game files videos, speed runs, and a lot of other stuff. So do check it out. And if you're a new subscriber, welcome to the channel. Look forward to producing more videos for you in the future. That's it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. We'll catch you again in the next one. Bye for now.